Calling to order the Chappaqua Library Board of Trustees meeting Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. Could everyone please rise for the pledge? Here's the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, please be seated. Any public comments?
If you use, for anyone in the public, if you use the raise hand icon, I can allow you to talk.
I don't see. Okay, doesn't look like anybody has their hand raised, right, Andrew?
No, nobody has their hand raised.
Okay, so let's start acceptance of the minutes of the September 21st, 2021 meeting. Anyone have everybody good with them? So we'll just accept them. Okay, next on the agenda is the FGIS, which is the final generic environmental impact statement for the form-based code. And Nishad and I have been, how shall I say it, wading through this document that seems like a moving target because it changes every time we turn around. At the last meeting, I said I was going to write and ask them if they had it in one place. They finally did put it in one place, and it changed a few times since then on the Chappaqua forward. So Nishat, why don't you, well, let me just, I'll backtrack. So we sent a letter because we weren't included as an interested agency. They didn't, and when I wrote to, on behalf of the board, to Ivy, the town supervisor at the time, we were told that, well, a copy of the DGIS, the draft, was given to the library, but that was not, it was not given to the library board of trustees or the director. So then we wrote another letter in, that was in November. In December, we sent the letter where we mentioned all the concerns that we had, and those things should have been addressed in the final environmental impact statement. And we have been, I know Nishad and I both have been following the meetings, reading everything, keeping up with it. And basically, we were told after the last meeting, I was told by both the town's acting supervisor and the town administrator that they really didn't have to take comments from us, which is a fact in law, but you know, we're a town and we're all supposed to work together, and like we listen to the community. It's really important for everyone in a position like ours, elected officials, to listen to the community. So we're at the point where it's tonight, actually, probably now or soon, they're going to be voting to accept this final draft or final environmental impact statement. So Nishat, do you want to just mention some of the things that you found that were not accurate or incomplete in the environmental impact statement?
Sure. I concur with what Ronnie said. You know, the library sent 2 letters to the town board, and I feel as though the concerns that were raised in the 2 letters were not adequately addressed. You know, the parking concerns of the library, one of the comments that was made in the FGIS, the draft, stated that the form-based code will not place an increased parking burden at the library. It just doesn't make sense. If you have all this new development that's going to happen, we're definitely going to have more patrons, and more patrons equals more parking. So we would definitely have an increase, but they don't feel that we would. Another concern we had was, you know, about taxes And I felt like their answer was, well, we'll figure out that later on, once the development happens, and we'll figure out, the town will figure out how much the growth rate is, and then you guys can figure out the taxes at that time. So yeah, I don't feel that our concerns were adequately addressed by the draft FGIS.
And there are a couple of things. First of all, I don't know honestly how anybody reading this and anyone who's knowledgeable can read this environmental impact statement, where first they wrote, in regard to the public library, the town will monitor expected population and new development in the FBC district, and any future capacity issues will be addressed by the library. And then they write, which is operated and maintained by the CCSD school district. Okay, that's not true. They then, yes, thank you, Liz, for nodding in agreement. They then changed it as of this morning when I looked at it for the nth time. And it's like a moving target. They wrote this: the town will monitor expected population, blah, blah, blah. And the capacity issues will be addressed by the library, parentheses, school district. So they still haven't quite gotten that while we are a school district library, we have a board, yes, we get our money, our taxes are given to us through the school district, but the library is an independent entity, and we, hire people. We're responsible for paying for any work that we had to pay for our roof. The school district didn't do that for us. So I just feel like, how could they read this and not realize that this was from the consultants, and the board is looking at what the consultants are writing, and they're probably going to vote on this to accept it tonight. And instead of, in the beginning, it would have been a friendly, good idea. If they didn't know something, pick up the phone, talk to us. We'd be very willing. Andrew would be willing to talk to them. I'm sure I certainly would be. But they just said these things. Another thing that's a few times they refer to the fact that we're adjacent to the to this the 72 acres, as if that doesn't mean that we have any, yes, they're not going to build next to us. However, we service the 72 acres that are part of this form-based code. So I think that the next step, and I wanted to mention something with respect to what Nishat said, that they said they'll address things later. Well, once they accept the finding statement, which I think is going to be October 26th, then we have to get a letter in by the 20th before they start talking about the finding statement. That SECRA, which is the state, I'm going to get the name of it right. The SECRA is another check on the environmental impact. And once they accept this form-based code legislation, they can't go back and reanalyze anything anymore. They can't go and do another environmental impact statement. So there's a lot of flaws in this, and to protect the library, we will be writing another letter. Nishat and I will work on that. And does anybody of the board want to say anything? Liz?
Thanks, Ronnie. So my main concern is with the process they're following.
Yeah.
They have not done a great job of including the library. And to reiterate, Ronnie, we are a separate entity, tax our district separate from the school, and we collect the school district collects the taxes, but it's not through them that we are afforded that tax dollars. Those tax dollars, our residents, who are within this zone and surrounding this zone vote separately on how much tax levy the library receives. And then we are responsible for making sure that the library fulfills the missions that our tax base supports. So I just want to reiterate also to the point that Nishat was making, you know, when our patrons come to the library, and I can speak firsthand, it's great when I can walk there. But if I'm checking out materials, despite the fact that I am in walking distance, I get in my car because I can't carry the heavy books and materials home with 3 children. Even by myself, I couldn't do it. So I think there has to be an appreciation that despite the walking distance, that's great if I'm going to meet someone there or do a little research. But if I'm actually planning on actively using the library and checking out materials, I need a parking spot despite my location. And then I just want to also, so the books and materials, you know, they're making a huge assumption that is not accurate with that one. And then I also want to point out that I think as a library, we've done a great job of supporting bringing people to downtown. You know, we have excellent programming, and I would hope that the town would look to us to support other opportunities. I don't think form-based code is the only way to get traffic to downtown. And I think our partnership with the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival, you know, we were there, we were part of that, and we're I think as a group, the library, you know, I think we're very willing to partner with the town and with our residents to do more. And I think that is underappreciated right now. And I, you know, it's upsetting that they're meeting while we're meeting, and we can't be in 2 places at once.
Right.
And our ultimate responsibility is to be here in our board meeting for our tax base, which overlaps with theirs. And I hope that they do not, you know, that they look at this process and, you know, make that tonight isn't the final say, and that they postpone their decision, because the process has not been one that has yielded, just from what we've looked at in the materials that they've provided in the draft. It's not, to me, it's not a sound path forward.
Well, thank you, Liz, and for all that you added. One of, you know, the library is the heart of our community, and the library serves every person in the Chappaqua Central School District, from 1-month-old to 110-year-old, whatever age you are, whether you're, and it doesn't matter if you're in school or not in school. So we are here for everyone. And the library, I mean, Liz, you mentioned the book festival. There's so many, we bring wonderful programs to this town, to our constituents. And yeah, thank you for, you know, backing up what both Nishat and I have been saying about, you know, also just to, you know, to be honest, it seems like the library is marginalized. It seems like we're marginalized.
Yes. It does feel like they're not listening, and I'm not sure if with our next letter, perhaps Ronnie, I don't know if you would be amenable to going in person.
Well, if the board would, if, you know, we can decide on this. If the board wants me to go in person and read our letter and say something, I'm more than willing to do it. Obviously, I couldn't do it tonight. In a way, I would have liked to have said something tonight, because they're going to vote on this. And, but, you know, here I am. I'm doing what I was elected to do, just like the rest of the board. So, you know, we can discuss that. We'll collaborate. Nishat and I will do a draft of a letter, and then we'll share some of the, you know, whatever anyone else has to say. Lane or Shoray, do you want to say anything about this?
I think you have covered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be working on a draft letter. We'll get it to you pretty soon. And then, of course, I always have everything looked at by the lawyer, and then we'll send it to them before October 20th. And then that's when their next work session discussion of the findings, because the findings will be, they look at if they adopted the form-based code environment, the final environmental impact statement tonight, then they'd have to look at it, examine it, and then see if everything, if they had anything to add. So that's where, we have the opportunity to say something more. But maybe, Liz, you could be right that it's possible they're not voting, they won't approve it tonight. Okay, anything else on this? And thank you, Liz, thank you, Sho and Nishad, for all your work, because believe me, it's like a needle in a haystack trying to find things and responses. And that was another thing. You would think, with all due respect, if we send a letter with our specific concerns, would be nice to get a letter back with our concerns and how they would mitigate them. But no, we had to weed through hundreds of pages. So anyway, okay, on to the next activity, the amendment to the bylaws. There's one little typo in it. On 3, it says, all committees shall make a progress report to the board at least twice, and then says once, but it should be twice a year. So we'll eliminate the once. And so when we had a work session, we talked about the fact that, we have these committees, they should be in the part of the bylaws. And Shorey and I worked on coming up with the what each committee would be, their responsibilities. And we also had the attorney look at this, and he said this was, in a good, he didn't make a judgment, but he said this is consistent with what other libraries do regarding committees. And Shorey, do you want to just explain a little bit about the reason for the detailed charters for each committee?
Well, the intention of the work was to create some kind of framework for these committees to be in an advisory role, and to look at short-term and long-term and basically big picture issues that the library might face and make recommendations. So we provided some details, but not too much, and enough so that there is a structure for the committee to know what is the scope of its work. So that's really the intention, to have some kind of scope and be clear about the role of these committees as being advisory and the membership and so forth. So enough details to create them.
Okay, does anybody, so we're presenting this according to the bylaws. We have to give 10 days notice. We'll have a month because we'll vote on this in hopefully at the November meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Liz, go ahead.
As you know, I'm not a big fan of going into and changing our bylaws, but if the rest of the board is keen to do this, then I would add the following suggestions. On number 4, no committee shall have other than advisory powers. I would delete the unless, because I don't believe that we would ever grant a committee any kind of specific power. We govern by collective authority once a month in our board meetings, or more frequently if we call a emergency or a out of sequence meeting. And that makes me it weakens our bylaws to have a statement like that in them.
Can I just say something that's already in our bylaws? We didn't change that. That was already in our bylaws, by the way. This isn't all new. The only thing that's basically new is is outlining, if you look at the bylaws, it's outlining, it's naming the committees, and then basically the charter for each committee. That's otherwise, that's been in there,
That's my
you
mistake
know.
then.
Okay.
I don't like that language, but again, I'm not a fan of going in and changing bylaws. I don't think our role in our 5-year term is to change our bylaws, unless we, come to a point where it's absolutely necessary. It's kind of, to me, like the Constitution. You don't want anyone or any term, you really don't. That's my personal opinion, is that we don't, unless there's an absolute need, we wouldn't go in. And I personally don't feel like the committees, I don't feel like we need a heavy hand and a constitution around the committees in order for them to be effective. So that's my opinion. And as far as the charter, I feel that committee reports, while they are good, I do have concerns that having regular committee reports takes something away from the director's responsibility to give a full and complete report at the meetings. And so my preference, again, is to have the director responsible for reporting comprehensively, as opposed to creating additional work for the board or for committees to report separately. I also think it would lengthen the meeting, and it's less efficient than having one spokesperson speaking to everything under the roof. So those are my two comments, and I apologize. I didn't realize that statement was already in our bylaws. But again, even though I don't like it, I wouldn't suggest going in to the bylaws, even if it was just to delete that, because my overarching position is that the bylaws should not be changed unless absolutely necessary.
Anybody else want to say anything?
I'm a little with Liz on that. I mean, while these are the committees we need today, they may not be the committees somebody thinks they need in the future, and hence having the flexibility for someone to, at any point in time, to do what is necessary, what they think is necessary, versus trying to put something in stone that might need flexibility later.
Okay, Nishat, do you have anything to say on this?
I understand what you're saying, Lane, about that, but I feel like certain committees, like the finance, the building and grounds, that is a committee that will probably always be there. The finance committee is something that I think we'll never get rid of, and even the buildings and grounds is something that will
filled out. I mean, again, somebody might in the future might have a different opinion for some reason. You're essentially, as Liz said, adding something to your constitution.
Well, go ahead.
I mean, again, I think a document with less than it has more flexibility for people in the future. There's nothing that says you can't have a finance committee. Now you're saying you must have a finance committee.
Well, sometimes constitutions get amended, and for a good reason. And I think this is a good reason. That's one, obviously, that's why I brought this up. So.
I mean, different people function differently in different times and places. Right.
And we're not alone. There are lots of other libraries that have bylaws that include committees.
It doesn't mean that they did it right either, though. I mean, that doesn't make us wrong.
Well, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong.
Yeah, exactly. My point is, just because other people don't have it written that way doesn't necessarily mean that we have to. No,
well, I didn't decide that. It wasn't my suggestion to do this because of other libraries. I just felt that with all, when we had to basically beg to have a policy committee that was only voted for 3 months, which was totally ridiculous, because the job of the board is to make policy. That was enough of an incentive for me to think we need to have things in writing so that something like that doesn't happen, where you could have a board president that says, no, we don't want to have any policy committee.
Like I said, I mean, I think boards should have the ability to be flexible in the future. And I'm a little with Liz in that I don't necessarily know that this is a requirement, but
I also don't know that that president in that moment in time was wrong to not want that committee at that time. So if we assume that that was wrong, then this bylaws modification might look better, but I don't want to make any assumptions about why a president in a moment in time didn't want a policy committee.
Well, you may not want to make an assumption, but I'm remembering facts pretty well of what happened, and that we were in violation of state law, and we needed to have a policy about audit controls, and we didn't have that. So we needed to
And
do
we
So-
did it without having to modify the bylaws, right?
But we were given, it was supposedly a 3-month thing that we just continued because the work needed to be done. And then that president wasn't the president anymore. So, okay, anything else on this? Shorey, do you want to say anything else before we move on to the next item on the agenda?
Well, I don't think that the bylaws and constitutions for organization is like sort of sacrosanct, that you cannot do anything. They have a purpose. They're instruments to make the working of the organization possible. So by updating them and by making them workable for the specific time frame, you're actually utilizing them better than if they are documents that do not address the needs of the organization.
And the thing is, you're saying they have to, they have to give a report twice a year. So they can do as much of this as they want or as little of this as they want.
Is it possible to just have a committee's policy as opposed to going into the bylaws?
No, I don't think so, because the committees are part of the bylaws. And the policy is for what is a library. That's a whole different thing. This is, you can't have a.
I think you can. We should probably check with the lawyer because that might be a nice compromise.
Well, I don't think, I'm happy to ask him, but I don't think we can. So I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that. Okay, anything else on this? Okay, so now we'll do the president's report. So Liz, you mentioned the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival. It was spectacular this year. It was wonderful that the library had a very strong presence there. The library table was right near the information table where people first came in. And it was a delight to see our librarians doing reader service and advisory and helping children come and find, authors to go to. And the kids, a lot of them just immediately gravitated towards the librarians because they knew them, and then they knew that the librarians would direct them to great books and authors for them. So that was pretty wonderful. And thanks to the staff, Andrew and Tao and the rest of the staff for spending time there. And it was just great to see the library so involved with the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival, because books are what we're about too. Then the other wonderful thing was on Sunday, the Jean Craighead George Park dedication took place, and the library, of course, wrote a letter in support of dedicating that Douglas Park to Jean George. And I did get to speak, but I was delighted to see our children's librarian, Mercy Garland, there, who read passages from My Side of the Mountain. And the best part was when they introduced her, there were kids there and they all cheered for her. And there were alums of Storytime, and that was just so great to see. So, and thanks to Mercy for that. And then I wanted to mention that as a follow-up to, if you recall, over the summer, there was the survey from the Westchester Library System Trustees. They sent a survey that I completed, and and in the survey, they asked if any trustees would be willing to meet to discuss working with other library trustees, and I was one of them, and we'll be having they're set up a meeting for us on November 15th, a Zoom meeting, and they're also going to be talking about the proposed state training for library trustees, a 2-hour training. So I will fill you in on that. So that's basically all I have. And so now we'll move to Andrew's director's report.
Thank you, Ronnie. Good evening, everyone. We had a lot going on this past month. As you've heard, we were involved with the Children's Book Festival, with Community Day, with the park dedication for Jean Craig George. We're working with the organizations to get an art installation up in the library commemorating the Crowbar book, which have been painted throughout the town by townspeople and students. And then we've had a lot throughout the library. Children's room ceiling is now completed. The parking lot was unfortunately damaged when Hurricane Ida passed through. We've been working with our insurance company and put in paperwork to FEMA for repairs. The Buildings and Grounds Committee met this month. We're in the process of scheduling a meeting with Andy Tung to discuss possible plans for the outdoor space. PK Interiors finished replacing damaged ceiling tiles throughout the library. We have several personnel changes to report. Miriam Safra, unfortunately, informed the library that she'll be resigning as a part-time employee to take a full-time position at another library. Today was her last day as a regular part-time employee. She'll be sorely missed. We've been interviewing what civil service calls part-time available library assistants and librarians to help us fill in emergency gaps. These are normally called substitutes. You've probably heard that term in the past. And this is a normal position for the library. It's for emergency call-in as needed only. They're not afforded a standard schedule. Our staff assistant Lisa has taken over the bookkeeping role, and training has been going very well. We provided at the Community Day and Book Festival craft programming, readers advisory, but we also signed patrons up for new library cards. We're able to loan books to patrons who came by during Community Day through our remote circulation process. And we shared a lot of information about the library itself. The big part is that I'm recommending that we move our computer technology from the multiple vendors we're currently utilizing and bring us back into the Westchester Library Systems fold and have them take over all of our technology needs. I shared some information with the board on that. We have until the end of the month to make changes to the service level agreement that we agreed to last month. I've been working with both the Network Support Company, which just changed their name to be part of Logically, and the Westchester Library System. This all came up because at their last site visit, the Network Support Company alerted us that we had several high priority changes and upgrades we needed to do, specifically with our infrastructure. Our server was significantly out of warranty. Our network switches were past end of life. Our wireless access points and controllers support ends at the end of the year, and we're not able to renew that. We discovered we had no backups on any of the staff computers that are on our back office, no domain controller. And we've been having a significant amount of issues with our printing and public use computers that has eaten up a tremendous amount of the staff's time, my time, and our contract with the Network Support Company. The changes to the pricing reduce the savings we would see with WLS choosing a new billing model. But the overall points to know is we would save, how do I put this right here? just shy of $7,000 a year. Oh, right there, I'm sorry, just shy of $6,000 a year. It's a savings of $5,900 per year. We would also save a one-time cost for the upgrades of $17,938.26. But the huge thing is the flexibility this gives our staff. The Westchester Library System originally required all libraries to use a virtual environment. You may have heard our prior director speak of the VDI and VMware, both of which caused a tremendous amount of issues for the libraries. That is going away. We will be receiving, if we go with them, full computers for all the staff. Down the road, they think sometime next year, the staff who are not, the staff computers that are not public access desks will be able to become laptops that are in a docking station. So not only can staff work at their station, they can pick it up, work wherever within the building, but also going to meetings, going to the Westchester Library System itself, going out to the public. They are on an active domain, and you can sit, the staff can sit at any computer within the building that's a WLS computer on the WLS network, log into their account and immediately have access to all of their bookmarks, their files, use any other peripherals and devices such as printers that are on the WLS network. So if we say had a printer go down in my office, I could just print to Lisa's office or print to the reference desk or literally anywhere. I could also just move to another desk and have full access. They provide backups at no additional cost. So it is a huge increase in flexibility, a decrease in complexity. The staff don't have to figure out what the actual problem is and then who to call. Is it a network issue? Is it one of our computers? Is it WLS? We wouldn't have to maintain contracts with all of the different vendors. WLS would be responsible for all of that. Their support is also open the entire time the library is open. It's 7 days a week, and it's nights, and it's mornings, which we don't currently have with the network support company. So I am strongly recommending that we move back to the Westchester Library System for our technology needs. They have made significant improvements over the years to how their system works. That new service level agreement that came out, we agreed to last month at the board meeting, also has within it stipulations for how often hardware has to be refreshed, which is every 4 years, and the time frame for how quickly, depending on severity, they need to respond to an issue. So I am confident that this will allow the library and its staff to continue moving forward, to work better, and thankfully to save a little bit of money.
Andrew, the cost for this runs on a calendar year, right? So is
Yes.
it, just from, remind us, is it like so much per month, or is it in chunks over the course of the year? Do you call?
So for the Westchester Library System, it is twice a year. It's billed out semi-annually. For the network support company, it's monthly, but their contract ends at the end of November. So we would actually, we would not have to break a contract with them and lose money.
That was my next question, was this, is there a termination fee on the network support? Sounds like no, or regardless would be essentially at the end of the contract anyway. So
Exactly.
you simply would not renew the network support, and the contract with WLS would start January 1.
I would start actually December 1.
The timing's perfect.
Yep.
Okay, Liz, did you want to?
Yeah, I had two things. One is just regarding the challenges that you uncovered, and then one is relevant to who we move forward with. So in terms of the challenges, one of the things you mentioned was that we had no domain controller. Can you explain what that means?
So the way it works with, if you have that, that's more of a business approach. You sign onto a computer, it's controlled by a systems administrator. They have certain security protocols in place. They can limit how you can access certain things, what programs you can install. This is an oversimplification, but it also allows you to have what's called a roaming profile. So you can move from computer to computer and your account follows you from space to space. The active domain also allows them to set up certain software, push it out to us. Right now, when we say get a new computer, the network support company doesn't configure that for us. The accounts don't follow to the new computer. We actually have to manually set the computer up ourselves, transfer all the files, enable and disable accounts for our staff. With that on WLS, they manage all of that for us. It also ties in directly to our Microsoft 365 accounts provided by the Westchester Library System, as well as our catalog system, Evergreen, which utilizes the Active Directory accounts for authentication. So we have one, if we have to update one password, it automatically rolls out to all of those different services. You don't have to manually reconfigure each of those.
So it was more of a hurdle to better operations than anything I need to worry about in terms of historical security. Yeah.
For the most part, yeah. It does increase security on our end by having an administrator be able to handle that authentication as well, which we don't currently.
Okay, and then germane to this, the pick, you mentioned that you'd be able to get on any printer. I know some of our printers and copiers are not through WLS, but they would all be on the WLS network. Is that the idea?
Correct. So WLS doesn't do printing, but they will support. They give us a list of supported devices. We then purchase that as long as they're network printers, which is what the requirement is for the Westchester Library Systems network. It hops on, they configure it, and then they set up the print server so that any of our staff can access any of those printers.
So would there be any impact, or are we in good shape there?
So we are in the process of replacing a few that are already either failing or are too old to be supported, but it will actually streamline. So instead of me needing a printer and Lisa needing a printer and Rebecca needing a printer, sitting next to Chinsei, who's using a different printer because she's on a different network than Rebecca, we could consolidate and have, a printer for an office as opposed to printers all over the place.
Right, one printer to maintain for everybody. That sounds much more efficient. Or
Yeah.
not one, but I get the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, and the same with scanning. You could then scan to the network drives as opposed to having to figure out which device is on which network, or grab a thumb drive, or
Shorey, did you want to have a question?
Yeah, I want to ask, in your opinion, is there any downside to going with WLS?
So they had an issue where the quality of their support was not where it needed to be, and they unilaterally made decisions that impacted libraries. That was a prior administration at the Westchester Library System. They've since undergone 3 audits: a technology audit, a systems audit, and I believe a management audit. They've identified the weaknesses. They're working on fixing that. And the new head of IT services, Wilson, I think is doing an excellent job in really trying to address these issues. I have personally worked with them for over 20 years. I am confident in their ability to do what we need.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Andrew on this? Do you need us to vote on this?
We should probably, because the cost increase in the contract is high, we should probably have a resolution to move the technology over and sign an updated service level agreement with the Westchester Library stating the additional devices that will go on. I do also want to mention that we will also be doubling the number of access points for Wi-Fi if we go with them, allowing us to push the Wi-Fi out into the public spaces more.
Okay, so you want us to make a resolution to move all our technology to WLS?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we have to give an amount of a cost?
We can. The total amount for the first year would be $89,396.92, which does include a one-time fee of $1,980 for the Wi-Fi equipment itself.
I didn't see that number anyplace in what you gave.
It's on the 3rd page of the IT document I sent you.
On the 3rd page, I see 98,300.
Oh, I'm sorry, $98,316.92.
Yeah, not 89.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So would someone like to make a motion to move our technology needs to Westchester Library System for a 1-year cost of $98,316?
No, I'm sorry, Ronnie. I'm sorry. That 98,000 is the cost if we stay with the current setup. Below that, the year one, it's $94,396.92.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so the 94,000. Anyone want to make that? Liz, you want to make the motion?
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we move our technology service and support in total to WLS for the first year cost of $94,396.92.
Okay, is there a second? Show Ray
A
second.
second.
Okay. Show Ray beat you to it, Lane.
That's right.
It's okay. Any questions, discussion? I think we asked all our questions. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
good. Yay. So, and actually today would have been good to have this because poor Andrew lost almost an hour waiting to hear back from Verizon about something related to this outage. So anyway, that was that. Okay, so now, Andrew, anything else before?
No, that is everything, and I'm going to promote Rebecca.
Okay, well, just wait a minute. Did anybody have any questions for Andrew further? If not, then please promote Rebecca.
Oh, Liz, looks
Oh,
like
Liz, go ahead.
I just, in your report, we're seeing the children's room, the grounds and the ceiling tiles in terms of the building and grounds.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if you wanted to touch on, I think you've started thinking about the theater.
Oh, yeah, I can certainly mention that. So that was actually part of our Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting that we held.
Yeah, which we'll be talking about.
What's that? I'm sorry.
So we're going to talk about the building and grounds
Yeah.
and have a report. So
Yeah, so
Do
we
you want to get to that later?
yeah, can we do that later?
Sure.
yeah, whatever you prefer.
Let's do that because that'll fit together. And we have Rebecca, who is Andrew can now promote, and Rebecca Rogan, the head of reference services, is joining us. We're delighted to have Rebecca join us tonight. As soon as Rebecca, we're going to see her. We're just going to, there you go. There you are. So we're delighted to have you join us tonight so you can showcase all the wonderful things that our reference librarians and staff do. So welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Ronnie, and thank you, everybody. It's great to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Adult Services Department, and I know that you know a lot of what we do already. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little bit that you don't already know. So first of all, starting with the obvious, our department staffs the information desk whenever the library is open to the public. So we are there, we answer the phones. But one thing that is a little bit special about Chappaqua that not every library has is that we staff the information desk with 2 librarians at the busiest times. And so that is most of the time. And what that means for the public is that when you call the library, there is almost always someone who picks that call up in less than a minute. Mm-hmm. So there are some libraries where a librarian gets pulled away into a long information discussion with a family, and they can be away from the reference desk for minutes at a time, sometimes 20 minutes, if they're running up and down stairs to find books. So that's one thing that is great about the Chappaqua library. When we're working at the reference desk, we one of the main things that we do is we fill holds. We get many phone calls every day. People want us to place holds on materials. And even though most people know that they can do that themselves and they know how to do that themselves, it's a great service. People call us from the car, or they walk in and they have a list of books and they ask us to place a few holds for them. So that's one of the main things that we do. We also do readers advisory, and that's every day. Someone comes to the desk. I read this. Do you have anything similar? I want to read something different. Or my relative is in hospital and is looking for a gentle read. One of the main things that we do is we try and fill those requests. When we're at the reference desk, another major thing that we do, along with placing holds within the Westchester Library system, we place interlibrary loan holds through the Westchester Library system. We can get and do get materials from all over the country. We get books from Texas and California. If things are difficult to find, we can usually track them down and bring them right here to Chappaqua. People can check them out, usually for a month. So that's a great service that not everybody knows about. Just because it isn't here in Westchester doesn't mean that we can't get it. We can usually get it. We, moving on from the reference desk, the adult services, we curate, so we purchase all the materials that you see when you walk into that section of the library, all the physical materials and all the digital materials. And we're equally careful with both of those collections. So for everything that we buy, it has to earn its way onto the library shelves. So we use professional journals. Every day, reference librarians are looking at Kirkus, they're looking at Library Journal, they're seeing what's going to be popular, what do people want? And those are the tools that we use before we purchase materials. We're anticipating what people will want to read and buying those materials for the library. We do the same thing with digital materials. So when we're purchasing ebooks, we're looking to see what do people want, and each one of those books is chosen. We have a librarian who's looking at those materials, selecting those materials. And we run a lot of reports. So for example, we have a report that we run every single week, purchase alert report. The number of holds on a particular item. So if we see that 10 Chappaqua patrons are waiting for a book and we only have 2 copies, then that's a flag to us that we will consider either buying a rapid read copy or maybe buying another copy of that particular book. One of the major services that librarians, adult librarians, all librarians perform is helping people to source accurate, authoritative, and current information. And even though now we can find information so easily, maybe there's even a greater need now for accurate information. There is so much fake news out there. And one of our jobs, one of the things that we are trained to do is to look at websites and to look at information, to know where to send people to find accurate information. So for example, if someone comes in and maybe they have a health issue that they've been looking into, if they just go onto Google and type in whatever symptoms they have, whatever issue they have, they can end up finding advertisements for supplements, misinformation, inaccurate information. So one of the things that we as librarians do, we can direct people to websites that are accurate, that we know are authoritative, that we know are providing the most current scientifically based information. Very important part of the role. The other piece of our job, or one of the other pieces of our job, there are so many aspects to what we do, is working with the community in so many different ways. So the library provides a place for people to come and work. So people to come in, we bring the laptops, sit in a, we provide quiet spaces, Wi-Fi, printing, and so people can come, get out of the house, people who are looking for work, people who are already working, this is a safe place where we have shared resources that everybody can use, and one of our jobs is to make sure that those areas are comfortable, are well equipped, are clean, and right now are socially distanced. We also, we are a social hub for people, and one of the most important roles that we play is a very simple one. We're present for anybody who walks through that door. So if you walk into the library, there are people who live in our community who live alone, and who don't necessarily have a lot of family nearby, and they can come to the library. Anybody can walk through that door. They come to the library, they can find a magazine, they can find a book. They are surrounded by other people getting on with their lives. They can come to the reference desk and ask us a question. We know that there are times when the librarian is the only person that somebody speaks to in a day. And it's a simple thing, but a very important thing is providing that, the friendly face, a few words of how are you feeling, how are you doing, it's cold out there today. It can be very meaningful for people. And moving on, digital collections. We are moving towards providing many things in a digital way. And that is improving all the time. Overdrive, for example, is beginning to consolidate multiple different genres into its platform in a much more seamless way, so that now you can find magazines, great courses. It's making it easier for people to find what they're looking for in one place. And I really do think we're getting better in that way. We have fewer apps, and the apps that we are able to provide more resources. But one of our roles on a really daily basis is to help people navigate those apps. So we show people how to download the app, how to use the apps, how to find things on the apps with multiple different devices. That's a very regular part of what every librarian does. What else? Back to community and the social aspect, along with workspaces, we of course, we have museum passes. Very popular. Free museum passes with the Chappaqua Library card, those get used frequently. That service, it got very quiet over recent months, but we're seeing it really start to build up again. So a very popular part of what we do. We have multiple special collections. One of them is our jobs collection, where we have physical books with resumes in, how to find a job, how to improve your job skills. And we also collaborate on a regular basis with Westchester Library System, who do career coaching seminars. They have done them for many years, and in previous times, they would rotate going to different libraries. And they would come to Chappaqua Library and provide, at that time it was an 8-week seminar for people for job seekers or people changing their career. Now they are still providing that service. It's a 6-week seminar, But we work with them. They come to the library. They talk to Denise Minson, who curates, a librarian who curates our jobs section. So that's just one of the collections. And the other one of the jewels in our crown, I know a lot of you are familiar with our Learning Center. And the Learning Center, I'll just read this. It's a wide-ranging collection of materials that provide resources on many aspects of learning. This section includes information on how we learn, as well as specific education topics, such as learning differences and attention deficit, ADHD, sensory impairments. This is a collection for students, parents, teachers, tutors, and professionals. This is a very special collection. It's unique in the Westchester Library system, in that we've pulled together a lot of materials in one place for people who are investigating learning differences, or have children who have learning needs. And people travel to Chappaqua to look at this collection. I have had people in tears when they've walked into the library. They've maybe a child has just been diagnosed. They're just reaching out for some help. They don't know where to start. Maybe their local library has a couple of general books, but they can walk into Chappaqua and see an array of specific current information on their particular issue and walk out with maybe half a dozen books. It's a really great asset to the library. Moving on, I'm running a little long here. You can move me along at any time, but I do want to talk about the role we play with assisting and promoting programs, because it is an important role. So we are lucky enough that we have our own program coordinator here at Chappaqua Library. That's a really wonderful thing for adult programs. But one of the things that we do is we support Joan Kuhn in that role by mainly, not only by promoting the programs in multiple different ways. So we use social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We post things on the event calendar, which goes on the website. We have about roughly 1,500 followers on Facebook. We do regular postings. People see the library in their feed pretty much every day. Either we're promoting a program or we're telling them what books, the new books that are coming out, or an event that's coming up. So social media is a very big part of what we do. Okay, I'm going to stop at this point, and I've done a lot of talking, and ask if anybody has any questions or anything you'd like to ask.
Does anyone, I have a question. I'm glad that you mentioned programs. Do you, besides promoting the programs, because people come in and ask you for a lot of things, do you get some ideas? Do you share ideas with the program coordinator and saying, this is something a lot of people are asking about and they're interested in? Is that part of the adult services work?
Absolutely. So sometimes we'll see that another library has a program, or maybe Westchester Library System is promoting something, maybe on health or maybe on nutrition. There's a lot of communication with our department and with Joan. So it's a two-way street. There's a lot of conversation, and anybody can suggest a program at any time. So yes, Ronnie, that does happen. Thank you for the question.
Anyone have any questions? Liz, go ahead.
Rebecca, how long have you been in Chappaqua with us?
Oh, I think it's about 15 years, Liz, something like that.
Amazing.
I started off a few hours and I was working in other libraries, And then I gradually built up my hours. And then I disappeared on you guys for a year and went off to England, and then came back. And last 2 years I've been full time.
Well, we're so lucky to have you, and I know we recently promoted you, and you're doing a great job. I'm really thankful. I think in what you mentioned, I heard a lot of opportunities for goals in terms of app usage, app adoption, Facebook followers, and I don't know if that's currently something you do or not, and I don't need to know tonight, but that's what I heard. And then the other thing I heard was that was particularly of interest to me was sourcing accurate information. Right now, I think there's a lot of, if we just pick the topic of vaccination, there's a lot of information going out. So I think it's critically important, and I appreciate that you highlighted your role there. And I wonder if that might be an opportunity to share also with our community how you do that, since you guys are so super trained, and make that knowledge kind of more accessible, kind of help train us in our everyday approach, so we can be a little bit more thoughtful too when you aren't there for us. Although you like you mentioned, you guys are great, and I really appreciate when I come in and there's always someone at that reference desk. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz.
I'll second what Liz said about the accuracy, because being a librarian, that was something that with kids, and teachers, they just want to Google and they don't look at where the source is and how inaccurate. And I think that I've seen a lot of opportunities here for so much that you've shared with us that a lot of the community might not be aware of. So in our looking forward in communication to the community, which we're working on, and that's one of the values of our communications committee is, to get this information out to the public, because what you're doing is really important work and good for the community. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Rebecca? Rebecca, you were a wealth of information. You are, all the librarians are always so helpful and welcoming to the public, and we're very grateful, and I appreciate your taking the time to join the board tonight and sharing all the wonderful things and that our librarians and staff are doing for our community, because that's what we're here for. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving right along, we're going to have we're moving to finance. And Joe, I want to thank you for this very detailed, very informational treasurer's report. Thank you so much. Let's go on to, and does anybody have any questions for Joe on that? It's pretty straightforward.
As submitted, Joe?
Submitted.
As submitted.
As submitted. Very good. So
A la Dick Court.
yes, that's great. So let's see, I'll have a motion to approve the September 2021 statement from someone.
I'll make a motion to accept the September 2021 statement.
Okay, anyone seconding? We have Nishad.
I'll second it.
Okay, any questions on this statement? Pretty straightforward. We see where we're going. We look like we're in good shape as far as the each amount. Okay, so if there are no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now let's look at the capital fund. We still, well, Andrew, we have moved the money from
Yes,
People's.
the money has left People's. That account is closed and it is in Westchester.
And it's so nice to see the children's room has gone. And we know that's all reconciled, yay.
When
Yeah.
is the final bill due on the roof?
When's the final bill due on the roof?
As soon as we get the warranty in hand.
Right. And that, but we
And then,
still,
and once we have that, we'll then close out the capital fund roof and
Oh.
distribute.
aren't we going to still pay for the steps that have to, will that come out of that? I think
That can
so.
come out of that,
Yes,
yeah.
the stairs
Yeah.
will come out of
We
that.
have to wait on that, but
Got it.
it will be soon, hopefully, right? Okay, whoever that was, somebody agreeing with us. Okay, any questions about the capital fund?
Actually,
Right.
out of curiosity, because I just feel, I don't know. All of these small balances that are donor restricted, are they ever used for something? Are they ever, what are they sitting for?
You know, it's funny you mention that because some of them are, like, for example, the Joan Slanger Storytelling Fund. They use that every year, but they haven't the past couple of years because of COVID. They didn't do a storytelling program, but they did one 2 years ago, so they use that. What I wanted to ask about is this Reader's Digest book fund. I know we're supposed to use it to buy specific books, and the books, specific books are, who knows the
My
answer?
understanding is it's not specific books.
Oh, I think it is, it's specific, because otherwise it would have been gone by now.
Well, there is a restricted, you can't spend the principal, you can only spend the interest on that one.
It goes way back, Ronnie,
Yeah,
this
I know.
one. And my father actually sat at the table because Briarcliff got it at the same time as Chappaqua. And
Right.
essentially they can use it, and it's supposed to be to curate a special collection at the director's discretion, really. So it's not specific to, it's intended to allow for Westchester to have some special collections. So I imagine that some of that is going towards some of the collections that Rebecca spoke about.
No, they never use any of this money. This money has never been touched since I've been on this board. They never-
It's permanently restricted. These aren't,
So the
These
two
are
that are
endowment
permanently
funds.
restricted, is it that the principal is permanently restricted and you can use the interest?
Right.
right,
Yes.
right, but the balances are so small,
Small
the
that there's
interest
almost
is
no
so
interest.
little.
Got
Yeah.
Oh, so are we using the interest?
You-
I
We
suspect
could,
a little
we
that-
could say that, yeah.
Okay, so that's just gonna sit there and basically do nothing.
Until the interest rates improve, you can probably buy one book a year
Okay,
with the interest that earns.
and then the other, then the restricted ones, like I know the Hour Back, they use some of that could be used for computers. And the Taconic Garden is for things related to the staff, so that could be used for like staff development and such. And then the Lunetta was for the outdoor environmental projects.
Right,
So-
that paid for the backpacks.
Right, and I'm not sure what the Jean George was for. Does anybody remember?
I'd have to look into that again.
I have that someplace in a file upstairs, so I could go back and look, because I one day went in and asked the director when I first got on the board, like, what is all this for? So, but I don't remember that. Okay,
Do we ever want to go back to Reader's Digest and say the purpose and the intent can't be fulfilled at this level, 30, 40, 50 years after this was established?
So my prior board looked into that in Somers. We had a larger endowment, and they were unable to track down anyone left who actually monitors the trust.
that's what I'm thinking too.
But it's still restricted, so you still can't utilize the principal.
So the permanently restricted probably will continue to sit there. The temporary donor restricted, it sounds like those just might get chipped away a little here and there. And so I guess something to keep in mind, just because otherwise we have to continue to account for them. So to the extent there's something to charge against the balance and simply then be able to close it out.
I think that if we can identify what the restriction is, and then identify that we've spent money that meets that restriction, we could eliminate these balances.
Right, like we'll know that the next time there's staff development, and Andrew can use that Taconic Club, and then that'll be wiped out.
Yep.
And so the
So,
Joan
I think it-
Slanger, what, Lane, did you want to say something?
No, I think my Wi-Fi was acting up.
Yeah,
Okay.
you had frozen on my screen for a little bit.
And oh, you know what happened? It says 50 up here, but what because we ran out of the Joan Slanger, and one of the children's librarians could speak to this. They had run out of money, and then the family gave us more money for that fund. So I don't know why there's $50 up here and then 10,000 in the permanently restricted. So we'll have to investigate that.
They might have had a restricted and then given us unrestricted so that we have it in two places.
Well, it can only be used for storytelling programs, which is what they use it for. But it got to a point where it was low. It was low, and and I think the librarians let the family know that they wouldn't be able to continue the program. So then they just put more money in. So. Okay, let's move on to the approval of the October 2021 bills. May I have a motion to approve the October 2021 bills?
I move to approve the October 2021 bills.
We have a second? Who's seconding?
I'll second.
Okay, Liz is seconding. Any questions about the bills? Liz, did you want to ask a question about something?
No, I'm glad to see that we're paying off the balance for the roof. That's great.
Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry for the interior, the ceiling.
Oh, the ceiling. Yes, that's good. Okay. Anybody have any questions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Next, Bill, Buildings and Grounds, Facilities Consultant Report. Unmute yourself and please speak.
Okay. All right, we've covered a lot of this already.
That's good.
The roof we know is completed. I have been told the warranty's issued. I haven't seen it. I don't believe Andrew has seen it. So we're gonna keep that 5% till we get the warranty in hand. The ceiling work is now complete, as Andrew indicated, and I believe he just approved the invoice. Still awaiting a couple proposals for the stairway on the roof. The landscape vendor brought some boulders over today. I didn't see them. I saw a picture. Andrew, did you?
Yep, they look good. They're in the right spot. They look, I prefer them to the sunshade, so.
Okay. All right, good. The parking lot, I'm just waiting for orders. What do you want me to do next? I did talk with the contractor, and the asphalt plants typically lately, the past few years, have been remaining open until mid-December. It used to be by Thanksgiving, but they go into it used to be by the 1st of November. Now it's I lost my page. Hold on one second. Remain until mid-December. It used to be Thanksgiving. Now they're open until mid-December. And of course, pending weather conditions and also large highway jobs. If they have a big job, they'll keep the plant open. Replacement window for the gallery has been ordered, and won't be delivered till mid-November. I can't believe that, but that's the lead time on that glass. I haven't scheduled a meeting with Andy. I'm going to try and do it. Can I assume that the times you were available last week are still good for the members of the committee?
That was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm
It
not-
really depends. I have meetings all over the place, so
All right, let me throw out a couple days to Andy
Yeah.
and then I'll throw it out to the group.
Okay.
Okay, we had a gasket blowout on a booster pump in the mezzanine mechanical room. We were very fortunate. All the water went right down a floor drain. It was right next to a drain. So there was no water damage. I did call Atlantic Westchester for emergency service. They removed the pump head and installed a blank plate, and I'm waiting for a proposal to replace the pump. And that's about it.
Okay, so Lane, do you want to talk a little bit about the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting that we had?
Yeah, I mean, I think now that we've completed the roof, that was sort of project number one. The idea is sort of worked down from there on particularly the building exterior. We walked around the entire building looking at various options, and the thought is that we're probably at the point we need to hire a consultant, which is the Andy people are referring to help us come up with a sort of a master plan in terms of everything from power washing to facade repairs to sidewalks and asphalt repairs, and really just try to do one large overlay project across the building versus sort of pinning it together with small little projects. But that way it's comprehensive.
Right. And looking at the outdoor space too as more user-friendly for patrons, including that. So Liz, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, Lean, a couple things. You mentioned like sidewalks. I would also put lighting as part of that with both an eye towards the lights that we currently have in the ceiling, in the exterior roof. Those are very old. I don't know if, at some point they expire, but the wood around them is like not in great shape either. So that's infrastructure.
Yeah, the whole wooden facade really
Right.
needs a fair amount of work. So
Yeah,
I think again, comprehensive to try to
Right.
bring all that up to
And I
date.
think because it's a wetland environment, we have to be mindful of, for safety, we need lighting, but we also have to be careful about how we light our property at night to protect the wildlife. So I think Andy Tung has the right expertise to guide us there, but I just wanted to make sure that we're mindful of that as a group.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing also, Lane, the committee looked at the theater and as something else that has to be on the list of projects for the Buildings and Grounds. Anyone else have any questions? Or Andrew, do you want to add anything to this?
no, that really covered everything.
Okay. So next we have personnel. So on October 20th, it'll be 1 year that Andrew Farber has been our director. And that means his probationary period is over. And that we can make a motion to move Andrew Farber from probationary to a permanent appointment as director of the library. So I would like to make that motion that we move Andrew Farber from probationary to permanent appointment as director of the Chappaqua Library. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Liz. And does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go
We can do this we can do it on that date tonight.
Effective, yeah, we could do it effective. We could do it now because probation, it doesn't have to be a full year. We could have done it like 6 months, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's anywhere from 12 weeks up to a maximum of 52.
So we can do it officially tonight, correct?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we're going to do it tonight. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, well, congratulations, Andrew. You're stuck with us.
Thank you,
There
everybody. I
go.
appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, but we're delighted. All right,
For
now,
the viewing public, that really is a big career milestone. When a director moves libraries, it is a big risk because they give up their job security for their probationary periods. We appreciate that you came here and you took a chance with us and that you've done such a great job. Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you, Liz.
Like I said,
Great to see you.
you've stuck with us and we're delighted. Okay, so next, Andrew, we have to accept the resignation of Miriam Safra effective October 13th, 2021. So can I have somebody make a motion to accept the resignation of, we're sad that she's leaving,
Yeah.
by the way,
Very.
just for the,
With an absolute sad heart, I will make
Right.
the motion to accept Miriam's resignation only because this is what she wants.
oh, because she's getting a full-time position. So there
Yes.
you go. Okay, effective. Do we have a second for that very loose motion? Okay, any questions or comments? We're just going to say Miriam's fabulous and good luck to her. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. But on the other hand, she wants to be a substitute librarian. Isn't that correct, Andrew?
Yes.
So
Which will be of
can we
large help to us on the Sundays and book clubs.
So do we want to appoint her as, make a motion to appoint her as a substitute librarian for salary of how much an hour?
$33.82 an hour, effective October 14th.
Okay, so who would like to move?
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Miriam to a part-time,
No, a substitute.
substitute librarian at the rate of $33.82 effective October, what was that date?
October 14th.
14th.
Right. A second?
I'll second.
Lane seconding. Okay, any questions, comments? No. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we still have Miriam a little bit, which is good. Okay, and then Andrew, we have 2 library assistants, part-time available people to appoint Alan Briones and Terry Ann Chinsey at $28 an hour. So can I have a motion to appoint Alan Briones and Terry Ann Chinsey as library assistants, part-time available at this rate of $28 an hour? Do I have a motion for that? Liz, you want to do that? Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Ellen
Alan,
Briones and Terry Ann Chinsey to part-time available at the rate of $28 an hour.
okay. Second, show raise seconds. Okay.
And that would be effective tomorrow.
Effective.
Effective October 13th.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Andrew, anything else for personnel? I think I got everything. didn't I?
I received an email this morning, unfortunately, from Ashley Lawyer, who is a part-time librarian for the children's room. She only worked Sundays. She has just emailed her resignation letter as well.
Okay, so we're going to accept the resignation of Ashley Lawyer, effective
That was effective October 15th.
October 15th, 2021. Should we say children's librarian?
Oh, we don't need to.
Okay, we don't need to. So we accept the
You
resignation.
want,
Go, who want, Liz? you want-
so I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the reservation,
Resignation.
the resignation of Ashley Lawyer as part-time librarian effective 10/15/2021.
Okay, second, somebody, I'll second, just for fun. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anything else in personnel?
Thankfully
Okay,
not.
that's enough, okay, very good. Okay, so now policy committee. So the policy committee, we have worked on, you've got a copy of the a new, first of all, we're calling it patron conduct policy, not the patron rights and responsibilities, because it's really patron conduct. And then you'll notice it's in this very nice organized format, which I would like to thank Tao and Andrew for reorganizing the policy in a very organized way. And then also putting related policies. So this is going to be the new format moving forward in just in keeping the policies together, because when these will go on the website, when we have a new website, it'll be very organized. So I hope everybody had a chance to read over it. If you have any questions or want to know the specific changes that we made, I'll just make a note that we, one of the main changes was to add something about, where is it? Number 20, video and photography. So that was something that was added to this. We did a little, we had Howard Miller, who's great, our new attorney from BSK, look this over, and he came up with a few things that needed to make this more current. And the other thing was we also address the eating, where is it, food and drink, we said in designated areas instead of any, the other thing said cafe, since I don't know that we really have a cafe. It's really a all-purpose room. So, and it makes it more general that way. So if everybody, if no one has any, we'll take questions. If anybody has any comments or things that they think need to be changed, then we'd have to work on that, because we'd like to have a vote on this next month. So Liz, you want to say something?
So I have one comment, just in enforcement, we don't actually specify the timeframes of a suspension. And I'm not sure if that is, if that's intentional or unintentional. But that's something I would want to just, if the lawyer didn't comment on that yet, to make sure that we get guidance there.
That is something that we actually voted on that in October, when we changed in October, we just voted on that whole thing, and it was looked at by our attorney, and this is what the attorney said was fine. And this has been reviewed by Howard, and Howard didn't say anything. So Andrew, do you want to add something?
Yeah, you usually see that so that it can be changed based on the severity of the offense and any circumstances that surround it. So you may, kick a teenager out for the afternoon. You may, because they're cursing or screaming. It allows you to be flexible and to adequately deal with whatever the situation is.
So will we have an internal sort of guidelines to help the person who's determining that time frame, so that there's some sort of a framework that it's, because we never want to be accused of being unfair or not following the same equitable arrangements.
I'll reach out to Howard and see what he recommends.
Okay, so is there anything else from anyone? Because that part we actually voted on in October, Liz.
I know, and I'm glad that we have another chance to look at it, because I didn't think of it in that way then, but as I think about the school district and our district, and how we want to really make sure that we are being equitable and that nobody feels singled out or treated differently, that we really button up our and make sure that we don't have maybe one person leveling one suspension in one way against one patron, and then the next day differently, and it looks bad, so it's just a more current thinking from my part, and I hope that that's okay to think more on these things as we bring them back to the table.
Well, it's like, it's anything you write is, as a writer, you're always revising for the rest of your life. So, but sometimes you just have to stop looking at it. But anyway, I'll have Howard look at this. Anything else from anyone? Okay, so Andrew will find out from Howard what he has to say about that. And then if he thinks something should be added, then we'll add it in, and then we can hopefully vote on it next month. So the next thing is Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee worked on the director job description, which we sent to everyone to look at. That's not something that we need to vote on, but if you want, we can put it on the agenda next month to just accept it. Is that what people would like? That way it's like we have a record of it, that we had this. Nishat, do you want to say anything? Because you're my partner on this. So does that sound like a plan that we'll just plan to just accept it at the next board meeting? Because we don't really have to, we don't vote on a job description.
As long as, and nobody else has any comments, and if you have any comments, please share them.
Right. Because I did send you, got one comment, so.
Right. You could just read it into the record. We don't technically need to accept it.
Okay. Well, it's.
I guess my only question is, Andrew, have you reviewed it and are you comfortable with it?
Yes, yep. I've
Okay,
reviewed it.
I
I'm
just-
comfortable with it, yep.
Yes, Andrew looked at it first. I wrote it up, and then I had Andrew look at it, and then, well, Nishat and I worked on it. Like, I typed it.
I
but
just
Nishat-
want to make sure we weren't doing it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, he's on the committee, the personnel.
Okay, I
committee.
just-
But I'm glad you asked, Lane, just so that we're clear on it. And so that's good. Okay. And then the communications committee, as far as that goes, they're still working on getting another bid, or they got the last bid in from for branding, and then they're going to figure something out, and then they'll meet with our committee, Shoray and Tao, and Andrew and I will meet, and we'll figure out how we're going to move forward on that. So hopefully we'll have something for you more next month. And then the strategic planning, Andrew, go.
So we met twice and reviewed the survey. We shared that with I shared the final copy with the other committee members, with Liz, Nishat, and Ronnie for any last minute suggestions. Ready to send that out to the mailing company, provided there's no update tonight. We are looking into setting it up for the print copy to have a return envelope attached to make it easier to get those responses. And we'll be launching the survey online at the same time. We'll then start collating those responses.
I think you meant Nishat,
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
Liz.
Oh, well, Liz, Nishat, and Ronnie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry about that.
So, and that will, it'll be well publicized in the town newsletter. And,
Absolutely. We want to do a full court press on PR. So
right.
the town
And-
newsletter, the
And
Northern
something-
Examiner,
right.
PTA, the school itself, amongst others. We're really
Right.
wanting to make sure this gets visibility.
And I'll share it on CCSD Parents on Facebook. So, okay. So I don't think there's anything else. And so I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:08 p.m. Who would like to make that motion? Or
I'll make that.
Okay, Nishat, you go. Go
I'll
ahead.
make the motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:08 p.m.
Okay. Second, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,